Welcome to my channel and my first video. My name is Michael Dawson, and I have recently seen videos of a few people competing against each other on a site called CSS Battle. This video will break down the process I use to solve a CSS battle and will hopefully teach you how to do the same. For this video, I will demonstrate how to break down the puzzle Simply Square of the first pilot battle on the CSS Battle site. CSS Battle is a site that hosts competitions where you must replicate an image using only HTML and CSS. In a CSS battle, you are scored on how accurately you match the image and how little code is used. Trying to replicate some of the targets can be intimidating for beginners, and some even for skilled programmers. The first step I will demonstrate when solving CSS battles is how to break down the image into manageable pieces and get the general idea of how it can be replicated and determine the best way to do this. I will also not be using any sort of canvas to draw the images, even if that method would work. I will follow the spirit of the competition and use just the HTML and CSS itself to draw. Second, I will create full code using the best formatted code possible. That means I will be using simple, effective, and easily readable code in this step. This step is more for debugging purposes than actual use, and to demonstrate how to code what was decided in step 1. In the third step, I will optimize the code. This means that I will remove excess code, especially code duplications. The result of this step is generally what you would use in production code for a website. Finally, I will minimize the code, reducing the length as much as possible. The result of this would never be considered for a production website. It is merely for the purposes of getting the best score I can in the battle. While I am decent at this, I am by no means the best. I will likely not even show up on the leaderboard in any battle. I have seen the winning code of one battle, and I could not even recognize any of it as HTML nor CSS. Battle number 1 on cssbattle.dev is called Pilot Battle. It contains 12 targets. The first target, and the one I will be covering in this video, is called Simply Square. As you can see, it is not the most complex challenge. Before I go over the solution, first I will go over the user interface and point out the useful features. The first feature to take note of is the editor. In this area, you can edit your code and it will dynamically update with the output. Currently, it only contains some generic code which we will later replace as we solve this target. You can jump the focus to the editor using the hotkey Ctrl-Shift-E that is shown at the top. The My Solutions button will bring out a list of your past solutions you have submitted for the target. And the Submit button will evaluate your solution based on how accurately you reproduced the target and how many characters are present in the solution. This also counts white space and comments, so optimized solutions are always difficult to read. To aid you in making shorter solutions, your character count is shown in the top right. This area is the output. It displays the live render of your code. On the top, you can see a checkmark that enables the Slide to Compare feature. When this is enabled, when your mouse hovers over the output, you will see the target on the right side of your cursor and output on the left. If you hold the Shift key, this will instead show the target on the bottom and your output at the top. This feature is very useful for comparing the two to check sizes and distances to make sure that they line up perfectly with the target. This area is the target. It shows what you are meant to be duplicating. In this case, a green square on a brown background. In the top right, you can see the dimensions of the target. This target is 400 pixels wide by 300 pixels tall. The score panel shows your last score that you submitted, as well as the best score you have received on the target. Here you can see my high score for the target is 745.65, which used 106 characters. You can also check the leaderboard or send a challenge to someone over Twitter. This is an especially useful panel. This provides you with the hex codes for every color used on this target. Double-clicking on one of the colors in the panel will copy the color to the clipboard. You can also copy the color using the Ctrl-Shift-C hotkey, then tabbing through the colors before pressing Enter to copy. Unfortunately, This option is rather annoying for Chrome users as Ctrl-Shift-C is the hotkey for bringing up the developer tools. So if you use Chrome, just stick to the double clicking, or you can manually type the displayed color code in. Now that's it for the user interface. I will not be going over it again in future videos, so if you forget when I go through the other targets, you can always watch this video again. In order to get a solution, we must first break down the problem into manageable pieces. For the first challenge, it's not very difficult, but it will become much more difficult in later targets. In this target, there are only two things to be aware of. The first is this green square. It's a simple block of color, so we can use a div with a green background to create the shape. The second is the brown background. For this, we can just set the color of the body tag to brown. It is much simpler than adding another element to act as a background or adding a brown border to the green square. Now, we will use what we have learned to duplicate the target. First, I will clear the code panel so that I can start fresh. I will add my body tag so that it can be colored brown later. I will add my div to become the green square. Then I close my open tags. Gotta make sure to clean up after myself. Next, I add my style block. This is where I can put my CSS. Now the first thing to add is a brown background color. I just copy it out of the color panel and add it to my background attribute. Then I begin on the green square. I will use 150 pixels by 150 pixels, then copy the green from the color panel into my background. Now we have a nice green square in the corner of the canvas, but it looks a little small. So now I'll add an extra 50 pixels to the width and height, bringing them up to 200. Something still isn't right. The squares are the same size, but they don't quite line up. There's a band of brown around it. This is the margins of the body. So let's cut the margins down to 0 to fix it. This issue crops up quite often. Margins are invisible, so it can be hard to detect when one is messing with the output of your code. Now they look the same, so we can submit the code. It's a 100% match. We got a score of 680.66 using 168 characters. Now that the code is working, let's optimize it. We want it to be as efficient as possible. Are there any duplications? Anything that could apply to multiple elements? Nope. This target is frankly extremely simple. There is no room to optimize the code more, since it is essentially the Hello World equivalent on the CSS Battle site. So, we have a working solution, but I'm personally not satisfied with the score. We need to reduce the number of characters as much as we can. I'm sure we can do better. First, we will clip off the end. The browser will assume anything not closed at the end of the block should be closed. So, it will add up the closing tags automatically as long as there's not something else keeping it open. This means that the script tag will automatically close on its own. Similarly, the browser will automatically finish off the closing brace for the last style, so we can remove that last curly bracket from the div styling. We can use the same logic to get rid of the semicolons on the last attribute of any style block, as the attribute will close automatically when the block closes, and there's no other attributes to interfere. We can also remove the closing div and body tags for the same reason. Next up is the body tag itself. Every HTML document must have a body tag, whether you explicitly write it or not. So we can once again rely on the browser to fill that in for us. It's looking a lot shorter already, but all that white space takes up a lot of room and characters. But the white space is completely unneeded. It is only there to make it easier for us poor dumb humans to understand. The computer needs no such visual formatting to understand the code. So, all of those superfluous new lines and spaces will just have to go. This looks pretty short now, but I want to eke out every last character I can. So one of the tags here doesn't need to be as long as it is. Which, you ask? The div tag, of course. The basic building block of this page is much too long for something judged by the number of characters. 3 characters is too long. Instead, we will use our friend the paragraph. A paragraph only has one letter in the tag. Now we can submit and find out how we did. The solution was a 100% match, using 88 characters for 772.9 points. Even better than my old score of 745.65 with 106 characters. Unfortunately, it is still 34 characters too long to get on the top 10 list. Though I don't believe a reasonable person could be expected to do much better than this. Please like and subscribe to feed the algorithm, and to be informed when I post the video for Target 2. If you have any tips, tricks, and techniques, or even just a better way to do this target that I overlooked, please share them down in the comments so that we can all get better.